Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. 1 week ago, House Democrats stood on the steps of the Capitol to launch our middle class jump start. Yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of the last increase in the minimum wage. The minimum wage is a very important part of our middle class jump start. It goes along with our creation of jobs, building America, infrastructure, broadband, bridges, rivers, high-speed rail, water systems, and the rest. While we were on the steps, as I mentioned last week, at the same time, the Republicans were in the Capitol planning to sue the President of the United States. Those two visions are what we live by every day around here. Democrats for progress, for creating jobs, Republicans for process and obstructing the president. While we are trying to lift tax cuts, the Republicans support to send jobs overseas. Democrats support tax incentives to keep jobs here. We're about, again, building the infrastructure. When women succeed, America succeeds is at the heart, it's central to our middle-class jumpstart, and that, again, has the minimum wage in there, as well as equal pay for equal work, earned sick leave, and what I think is the missing link in the evolution of women in the workplace, affordable quality child care. We have legislation to do all of these things. Again, the innovation, the entrepreneurship to make all of this happen, to keep America number one, begins in the classroom. And we have legislation, Mr. Tierney's legislation, to make college more affordable by reducing interest rates. Again, while all this is possible to be done in a bipartisan way, the Republicans keep harping on their anti-Obama agenda. But it's not just against the president, it's against the interest of the American people. We know that we can work together. Building the infrastructure has never been a partisan issue until now. So when we passed the minimum wage, when we had the majority, President Bush signed that. So we have bipartisan coming together over time. Yesterday also was a day, some of you were there. Well, I guess those who were there are not here now. We met with two of the Central American presidents, President Hernandez of Honduras and President Perez Molina of Guatemala, and the Foreign Minister of El Salvador, who had not arrived in Washington yet. They told us what their perspective on what's happening at the border. We told them ours. We're hoping that we can have bipartisan cooperation on a supplemental that addresses the humanitarian needs of the children, that provides due process as well as representation, as well as judges to quickly hear their cases, and that we protect our border, and that when the decision is made about these children, if it is to return them home, to do so in a way that repatriates them safely back into their country. Sometimes hopefully we can, as the administration, I think, considering, according to the press, process them in home country so that they can find out what their legal standing is and prospects are before they make the trek across the desert, across this whole country of Mexico. I think I'll stop there and just take any questions you have, because it's Friday morning and we have young people coming in to tell us their view of how we go forward, and I think we can handle this more quickly.
Good morning. With August and the recess approaching, what do you say to your constituents and the public about a lack of accomplishment on Capitol Hill?
Well, I think my constituents, but which broader to the public, should know that we're engaged in a drive-by Congress. We're hardly ever here, and when we are, we're engaged in process, not progress. It's absolutely shameful that opportunities for job creation, which is what the American people want us to do, create jobs, create growth in our economy so that we have a good jump start to the middle class. Look, we're going to be in just a few days this month, and next month we're in 12 days in September, and now there's rumor that the Speaker may cut off the last week of that 12 days. That's not responsible. That's not responsible. So there is a choice to be made as we go forward, is do we want bipartisan cooperation to get the job done for the American people, or do we want to obstruct and be absent, to be missing in action for addressing the needs of the American people? It's about progress versus obstruction. It's about bipartisanship versus obstruction. And people know, I think that more and more the public is aware of the Republican obstructionism here, but that's not good enough. We all have to try and keep trying and keep trying to find bipartisanship. And one place we can do that is on this border issue. I know Republicans across the country care about those children. I know some of our Republican colleagues do. Hopefully we can at least on our values, who we are, and how we treat children and how we respect our own due process in our country, at least have that as a basis for coming together. Yes, ma'am.
I know in the past you've said that you wanted to see the supplemental go through before any changes to that 2008 anti-trafficking law were discussed, but now Kay Grainger has put out her recommendations. It does include changes. Is there any way Democrats could get on board if it means getting a deal before the August recess versus leaving and not really addressing the money issue or any solutions to the children on the border?
Well, is there any way that the Republicans will be on board to address the humanitarian needs of the children? Because that should be the priority. But let me say, these are different laws that we're addressing. One is to address the needs, and we need a supplemental to do that because we have an emergency situation that needs to be addressed. Secondly, we're talking about immigration law. What's happening at the border is a case for passing comprehensive immigration reform. Some are using it as an excuse not to pass immigration reform, and the excuse will do. They aren't, they said they're not going to do it. But they should not take any hope in saying that because of this we can't pass it. Because of this we must pass comprehensive immigration reform. And in the context of that, then you take up the 2008 law. What is its purpose? What is the damage that is done to just in a clause in another bill without the proper review? What does it do to change that law? Because, it relates not just to Central America, it relates to the American position on refugees and asylum seekers from around the world. Do we want to check out of that and say to other countries, you take them, but don't talk to us about that? So again, it's important to see what the purpose is. We should have a regular order of a congressional review, hearings, et cetera. That's everything. Every law we pass is subjected to a future review or looking back review. So I think those are two different things. You want to talk immigration, talk immigration. You want to honor the values of our country in terms of humanitarianism and due process, pass the other bill. There's no reason why they have to be tied. And I hope that the Republicans will come to that conclusion. And we're waiting to see what they will put forth. What can they pass in their own caucus? Yes, sir.
That said, Jay Johnson said very clearly this week that he wants changes to the '08 law, and he's talking to Congress about doing it in the context of this crisis at the border. Are you involved in those talks at all, and do you know what they want to do with the '08 law?
Did he say he wanted in the supplemental?
No.
Guys, that's what I'm saying. Okay, anything is subject to conversation.
If he wants to do a parallel, then he's doing it in the context of the crisis at the border.
I do not think these children should be held hostage to a discussion that should be taking place over here. Whatever he is suggesting is properly discussed in the context of immigration law. And if they even want to say we're not going to do comprehensive immigration reform, but we'll give a proper congressional order to reviewing this rather than making it the price for children to pay in order to have humanitarian assistance.
Do you know what changes they would like to make?
Who?
The administration.
No. I mean, I've read what you have printed in the paper. I'll be seeing him shortly on another matter, and I'll ask him about that. But I don't know whether he's speaking to the expediency of we've got to get the supplemental, so let's open our minds to this, or if they really believe that we should be reviewing our asylum and refugee policy. I think it's probably the former, but I don't know. Okay, that's it.
Accept changes in the '08 law as the price for a deal on the supplemental, no matter what the process or linkage between the two is?
You know, let me just say this, because this is where we started this discussion. The president put forth a supplemental that met the needs of the emergency situation that we have on the border. It mitigated for some of the harm that could be done to children. It was comprehensive. It was about humanitarian assistance, due process, protect our border, repatriate the children safely by addressing their return to their home countries. The Senate has, I think, although less money, less resources, but it's for a shorter period of time, so it's commensurate, even a better bill to address due process with more assistance for representation and more judges to hear the cases more expeditiously. So either one of those two bills is what I would support. And again, whatever the bill is that comes forth, we'll all review very carefully. But it's not a question of, will you support this? It's in a bill that we don't have any idea what else is in the bill. I can't answer that. When I see the bill, I'll let you know. But I very firmly believe that it would be a mistake for us to do immigration law in a supplemental bill. You're not supposed to be legislating on an appropriations bill. We hear that every day on the floor when we try to improve the legislation that they have put on appropriations bills. For them, it's okay. For us, it is not. But it's not a good place to insert a clause that has such ramifications on a bill that has nothing to do really with the values that are put forth in the Wilberforce bill, in the Wilberforce law. So again, let's just keep them separate. Immigration, immigration. You want to have a separate bill on 2008? Discuss it there. But again, don't hold the children hostage to the cosmetics of how tough you are on the border, because it's a different. These are children coming over the border. They're children, and as I said to you before, the National Catholic Conference of Bishops compared this to baby Jesus fleeing violence. You could even speak about, if it's your tradition, Moses. What would we do if Moses had not been accepted by the Pharaoh's family? We wouldn't have the Ten Commandments, for starters. But you understand my point. Historically, we have a challenge, and we have examples of humanitarian assistance that should guide us in all of this. And 2008 had strong Republican support. They were many of them were the initiators. We have champions on the Republican side of the aisle who have been there for human rights and respect for refugees and asylum seekers. They're in the top of people in the country, in the world, advocating for that. So I trust the values that many of them have in the Congress. I hope that in their caucus they will have sway. Because you have to weigh equities. And the equity we have to weigh is here. Are we going to live up to our responsibility for humanitarian assistance, due process, and the rest? Or are we going to take a cheap shot at kids? And we'll see. I do think that it really is important, and I respect the fact that there's not been enough explanation. You know, there's so many back and forth on it, that the American people and in the goodness of their heart are humanitarian and would like to see this happen, but they shouldn't think it happens at the expense of our border security. And that's the case that has to be made, because, again, when people react to something with sometimes insufficient knowledge and sometimes with well-founded concerns, we have to have that national discussion about why this is important. As I've said to you over and over again, President Lincoln said public sentiment is everything. And we should try to come to a bill that brings us all together including our country. I think we have the values here to be capable to do that. We're just waiting to see what the Republicans put forth. You had a follow-up?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, at this podium, you said that changes to the OA law would not be a deal breaker, and if that was
Didn't I just answer that?
No, you said if that would be the face saver that the Republicans needed, that the Democrats would be
Yeah.
willing to accept it. I'm just asking what has changed in the past 2 weeks.
But we haven't seen a bill. You asked me about the president's bill, right? 3.6 billion. You
Not my
understand
own.
that? You understand. But you asked, you were talking about a question I answered when you asked about the president's bill. We don't have the president's bill. We're waiting to see what bill we have. So again, as I said earlier, if a bill mitigates for the damage that it causes in one way and another. And believe me, the last thing I need at the start of a discussion is for the Republicans to say, she drew a line in the sand. There's no way we can go down this path now. So in the context of this debate, my priority are the children. And I want to see what they're going to do about helping the children. And if that seems inconsistent to you, I reserve the right to be inconsistent when we're talking about two different bills, maybe three, maybe four. We have the president's bill, we have the Senate bill. We have yet to see the Republican proposal. So,
Really quickly, there's about 4 voting days left, I believe. I understand that there's a lot of hope that a deal gets done, and it's very, very important. But do you actually believe that there's a chance that a vote on some sort of supplemental bill could happen
Yes.
before the August recess?
yes, I do. I mean, I'm ever hopeful because I believe in the good faith that many of my Republican colleagues have on these issues. And I know the American people, for all the concern they have with one aspect or the other of what's going on, want to help the children as well. And you have, don't take it from me, outside validation, the National Catholic Conference of Bishops, Save the Children. The list goes on and on about people who care about this. I mentioned that I met with the presidents of the countries yesterday, Central American countries yesterday, but I also met with the mayors and elected officials and leaders from the border, from that area. I had visited many of them in Brownsville a few weeks ago, and now they came to Washington to further advance the cause. The representative of the Jesuit refugee service, or whatever the official name is, at the head of the Jesuits in that regard. Catholic Charities, Sister Norma from Catholic Charities, and then the mayors, Mayor Martinez of Brownsville, Mayor Garcia of Edinburgh, a number of elected officials to hear what they had to say, what the impact of this is on their area. I've always believed two things, because I've been there many times, to McAllen, to all of those places, to El Paso, to Laredo, any number of times. When you're there, you understand what an important part of America our border is. It's a community with a border running through it. It's about a tremendous cultural connection. It's about a very, very strong commercial relationship, the commerce between Mexico and the U.S. that is facilitated there is really important. They're very excited that they have SpaceX now coming out of Brownsville, future, very entrepreneurial venture there. So they see themselves as in such a positive way. And as we debate this, we must respect that part of America that is so valued. And that's, that is just another equity to weigh. How do the people of the region, how are they affected in terms of how we deal with the humanitarian? I mean, if this were happening any other place in the world, if children were fleeing violence in other part of the world, you know that the American people would say, what can we do about that? And that's what we're hearing now. So I'm ever hopeful and prayerful that the outside validation, those who care about this, who have a good rapport with all members of, many members of Congress, but certainly within the Republican caucus, will be persuasive in having us honor who we are, a nation of immigrants, constantly reinvigorated by newcomers coming to our country, making our country more American by their commitment to family and faith and optimism and determination. So seeing it in the sense of how it fits into who we are as a country, what our values are, how we have succeeded, and how this, again, is a part of our country, I believe that it's possible that they can come forth with something where we can find common ground. But we haven't seen that yet. I only hope that they don't go as the convoy theory, go as slow as the slowest ship in their convoy. Because if they do that, then we won't be able to achieve what we need to achieve in the timely fashion to help the children, to save the children, to do what the bishops admonish us to do the best interest determination, what is in the best interest of the children. And that's what we have to do, consistent with our values, consistent with our laws, and very soon. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.